For the first 4 weeks, he was mostly offline, except for major agencies' decisions and matters that could not be delegated. But Scott, to be honest, it wasn't like he was very proud about the announcement of his children, right? But there was no announcement at that time of paternity leave. They didn't come out and proudly say it and take that stand. That is not how this was handled. So why do you think that is, Scott? We're only finding out about it now.
Well, they were hoping no one would find out about it, number one. And number two, I think the PR danger here for Secretary Buttigieg is we're in the middle of one of the biggest transportation crises in recent American history, all this chaos at the ports and supply chain issues. And he's not been at work. Now, I'm a pro family leave guy. I believe in it. As you mentioned, I've got 4 kids. In my company, we've been generous with letting people take time off with their families. And I think that's a good thing. But when you accept an assignment from the President of the United States and you are confirmed by the U.S. Senate, you're accepting a higher level of responsibility, a higher level of public service. And frankly, you ought to know that goes with some personal sacrifice. So the fact that they've let this chaos go on at the ports while Secretary Buttigieg has been off doing this, and now they want to present it like it's an anti-family stance to question that, I don't think that's right. Look, he's not a middle manager at Dunder Mifflin, Scranton, PA, okay? He is the Secretary of Transportation, and that just has to come with a higher level of personal responsibility.
Hillary, what do you make of that point, that perhaps given the job, given the responsibility, given the moment and the crisis, that he could take a leave, but maybe not at that moment, maybe put it off and take it later because he is in a very specific and special job?
It's a good question, but I don't think there's any reality to it. We know that the secretary has been available multiple times to the department and to the White House over the course of this leave and has keyed in on special calls and assignments. We know that the Deputy Secretary of Transportation, there's an entire department there doing the work, and we've got port policy happening. President Biden is keeping the Los Angeles and California ports open 24/7. Secretary Buttigieg was involved in that decision. So this is just really a smokescreen because it's not true that he can't get his job done, and it's not true that we have to make that choice in America between getting your work done and taking care of your child. Falling into that trap is dangerous.
Scott, what do you say? Again, given the context here of the job.
I mean, look, number one, if he was getting his work done, the ports wouldn't be a total disaster for the Biden administration. And the president himself wouldn't have had to have stepped into this all these months later. Number two, again, he's a cabinet secretary. And just a year ago, he was asking the American people to make him the president of the United States. He was asking for this level of responsibility. And I'm sorry, being president, being cabinet secretary, being confirmed by the Senate and taking on these big jobs, this is different than some minor non-public job in middle America, in corporate America. And so he took this on. He knew what he was getting into. And the fact that they didn't tell the American people what he was going to do, and now they're cleaning it up on the back end, tells you they just mismanaged this. And it makes me wonder if he has a level of seriousness commiserate with what's required to be a U.S. cabinet secretary.
Hillary, there is something to be said for that, right? They didn't embrace it at the moment at all. I mean, this was not something. I think it's pretty clear they were hoping people wouldn't notice.
They have been transparent about him not being available for certain things, but for emergencies, he has been available. And I think that,
right, but Hillary, that is really different than saying, I'm going to take paternity leave because I think it's important and I'm setting an example. That's not what they did.
Well, it is what they have done. And I think that family is entitled to a level of privacy, just like other families are. But having said that, I think the country is not for the poor because Secretary Buttigieg is taking parental leave. The crisis at the ports has more to do with the supply chain issues coming from the Far East. The administration, including the Department of Transportation, including Secretary Buttigieg, they are doing everything they can, working with shippers, working with suppliers, keeping that thing flowing as much as possible. Scott talking about this being a crisis at the ports is just not true.
But we do have a supply chain crisis.
The crisis is at the point of distribution where the supply chains are and getting them into the United States.
There's ship after ship lined up in the ocean out off of both coasts. I mean, if this is not a transportation crisis, boats in the water, then what is?
Look, there's not much that you can do other than keep the ports open 24 hours a day, which is what they are doing. They are facilitating as much transportation as possible.
Yeah.
I think that, look, it's in the Republicans' interest to try and turn this into a crisis and relate it to a family decision, which all men should pay attention to. But they're just not related.
All right. Well, I appreciate both of your time. We're all parents. I won't put anyone on the spot on what they would do in this situation, but it's an interesting question. Thanks very much to both of you. I appreciate it. And next.